So guys, from the mounted position, if we've worked to get here, and this is the most dominant position in any fight, that also means that that is the position that people are going to be most eager to escape from. If it's the best position for me, it's the worst position for him. So that inverse proportionality is going to make him fight very much, which means that I need some tools, some techniques, some tricks to maintain this position. I don't want to give up what is my best advantage. How do we do this? When I'm mounted, it's always going to be the case that the person lifts their feet, because if they don't, they have no power to contract their core and lift their hips. And even if they don't know jiu-jitsu, they're going to be trying to push off of something. Very unlikely that someone's going to lay with their feet flat and try and push me off, right? Even when we're in the gym, we bench press, we lift a weight, we always want to be grounded. And being flat-legged is not grounded, so it's always going to be the case that the person lifts their legs if they're going to defend themselves. And that gives me an opportunity to put my feet inside and put them together like this. And when I do this, I want to push all the pressure of my hips into their stomach, so much so that my knees almost become a little light, right? I rest my abdomen on their abdomen, and look, the knees are a little light. They float on the ground. So let's spin 180 degrees here so we can see this from the back view. But my hands are obviously out for base, and I put the feet together. And then right now the knees are a little bit heavy because my weight is still in my hands. So when I take my weight off my hands and I lower my weight into my hips, then I lift the knees a little bit, and I want to feel this persistent pressure on his midsection, because that's going to make it very hard for him to move. Now my hands, let's spin around again please. My hands are going to be very low and wide. That's all. Very simple way to cover the position. Low and wide, just like this. I don't want to go too far over the head where he can reach the hands and pull himself up. I don't want to go too low where he can take the hands and tuck them into my body and perhaps roll me over, right? What I want is north side, about 45 degrees out on either side. And then when the feet go together, and I lift my knees a little bit off the ground and put the pressure down, he's completely covered. And it makes it hard for him to move. That also keeps a persistent pressure on his gut. Very, very hard for him to escape from here. What's important for me in maintaining this position is understanding that he's not going to lay there and let me do this. He's going to respond. So even if I'm low and wide, and my knees are slightly off the ground with my feet together and I'm putting pressure in the hips, he's still going to take his hands and try and throw me this way or throw me this way. Now the only available part is right here. So he may grab my jacket like Charlie just did, or he may just knock me side to side. So when that happens, I have to be ready to respond. Right? And how do I do that? I keep the pressure on the hips, and when he moves me to one side, I just hold the head, and the other arm goes out wider for base. The same pressure remains on the hips the whole time. I don't sit up now and take the pressure off and let his hips free so he can start to lift them or free his legs. I keep my feet together and my knees barely touching the ground, and I just hug the head, and this arm goes out 45 degrees, very stiff on the ground with a lot of traction and friction on the mat. And if he starts to move me to the other side, then it's very easy for me to just hand off the hand, base, underneath. Right? These are my anchor points. I want to anchor here behind the head, and I want to base on him, all the pressure on his hips, and on the hand. Just like this. And so he'll just push me back and forth a little bit. Go here, 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 and back, right? Very easy for me to switch the hands. Why? Because all of the pressure is here, so the hands are relatively light and mobile. So let's try this again. Remember, we want to be very low and wide, with the hands spread open 45 degrees off of his body. I put my feet together with my knees barely touching the ground so I can drive the pressure into his hips. He'll tell you that this is uncomfortable. If your partner tells you it's not uncomfortable, then you're not doing it correctly. So make sure your partner feels some pressure here and that the pressure remains constant during the entire drill. That's the goal, because you should be mobile enough to switch the hands behind the head, off to the side, behind the head, off to the side, while keeping the pressure on the hips the whole time. So feet together, knees barely touching the ground, pressure on the midsection. When he throws me, I catch, and my hand's out wide, and then I catch, and I catch. Now notice one thing that's very important too. When I move, my hands are moving, but not my body too much. If Charlie is able to throw me pretty forcefully to one side or the other, and I lose this alignment, when he throws me back the other way, I'm going to go just as far, and now look, eventually I roll over. And he's free, and this is what I have to prevent. So it's very, very critical that I stay as centered as possible. I don't want to go too far out using this increasing windshield wiper effect and then find myself rolled over to the side. And the way I do that, again, is by maintaining constant pressure on the hips. I want to be lined up with him as much as possible, and the hands move, not the body. So low and wide, feet together, pressure on the hips, and when he moves me, I catch the head and hold the hand. And I try and keep my head as center line as possible. All right, without a partner, it looks like this. Hard to do on your own because it's very difficult to simulate without a partner underneath you to put the pressure on. How to do this feet together, hips down thing, right? So we'll just do this from our knees, but one hand goes under the head and the hand's out 45 degrees. And look at the handoff. When I switch the hand here, I hug the neck, then I move the hand. And I switch the hand here, I hug the neck, then I move the hand. And I don't do this to the side, I stay straight. That's it. Make sense? Let's give it a try.